So now that you've learned what a function is, now you're going to learn a new notation for writing equations. And this is called function notation. So when a function, so we can shorten that to f, is defined with a rule or equation using x and y for the independent and dependent variables, we can say that y is a function of x. So this emphasizes that y depends on x, and it shows that y, you only get that one y value for every x value you put in. So as soon as we now have a function, so something like y is equal to 2x plus 3, every linear graph is a function unless it's vertical, but then you don't have a y value anyway. We can replace this y with a function of x, showing that y is a function of x. So f bracket x bracket is read as f of x, or sometimes you'll see it as f at x. The letter f is a name for this particular function. It's preferred to use f because it says function, but sometimes you'll have, f of x equals 2x plus 3, and then you have another equation, y equals 5x, let's say, and instead of calling it another f of x, we can give it a new function name and call it something like g of x is equal to 5x. But what this means is that y is a function of x. So you're finding the value of your function at a specific x value. And so we can be a little bit more shorthand in how we write things. So f of x is really just another name for y. This is really important. So if I have an equation, f of x is equal to 3x minus 5, the f of x is replacing a y. The x in the bracket can be replaced with a specific x value, and then on the right you have the expression that defines y in terms of x. So here we go. I have an example. I have two equations. I have f of x is equal to 6x minus 2, and I have g of x is equal to 5x minus 1. So now in math shorthand, I can simply ask you a question like this. And what this is find the value of your function when x is negative 3. In other words, everywhere there's an x, you're going to put in a negative 3. So the value of your function when x is negative 3 would equal 6 times negative 3 minus 2, which would give you negative 18 minus 2, which would give you negative 20. So the value of your function when x is negative 3 is 20. In other words, when your x value is negative 3, then your y value is 20. So your ordered pair would be negative 3, 20. Whereas if I asked you to find g at 0, then I'm asking you to put in x is 0 into the g of x equation. So I know which equation to put this into. I would get 5 times 0 minus 1, which would be negative 1. So the y value when x is 0, so the value of my function when x is 0 is negative 1, which means my ordered pair would be 0, negative 1. Another way of asking this question would be to say, instead of f at x, and determining what x or y is when you know x, I could say, what is the value of your function, or what's the value of x, I should say, when your function of x is 4? So this time, if you look at your equation, f of x is equal to 6x minus 2, this time they're giving you f of x is 4. So I'm going to replace that whole f of x. So in other words, y is 4. So what x value would give you a y value of 4? So I'm going to add 2, I get 6 equals 6x. And then I'm going to solve for x by dividing each side by 6, and I would get x equals 1. So in other words, when the value of your function of x is 4, the x value that would give you that y value would be 1. So your ordered pair would be 1, 4. Same thing here. This is just another thing that they can ask you to do. This time, instead of giving you an x value as a number, they're giving you an x value as an expression. So again, your g of x equation was 5x minus 1. And what they're doing is that in for x, we're putting t plus 2. So everywhere there's an x, you're going to put brackets instead. And in the bracket, you're going to put t plus 2. So then you're going to distribute the 5. You get 5t plus 10 minus 1. And you get 5t plus 9. At this point, it doesn't seem like there's much use for this, but it's just a way of manipulating different functional expressions. And we do stuff with this later. So this is kind of like your beginning skill. So if your x value was the expression t plus 2, your output or your y value would be 5t plus 9. Okay, moving on. Another way of asking these questions is instead of giving you an expression, I can give you ordered pairs or a graph or a mapping. So if I ask you to find f at 2 and f of x is equal to -1 for each function. So in this question, they're saying find the value of your function when x is 2. So you can see in this ordered pair, you have an x value of 2. So the value of your function at 2 is 9. So when your x value is 2, your y value is 9. The other question it says is find the value of x when your function at x is -1. In other words, you're looking for the point that has a y value of -1, which is this one. And you say the function at 4 gives you -1. So the x value, when the x value is -4, you get a function value of -1. When you're looking at mapping, same idea. So if I wanted to find the value of your function at 2, here's 2, and the y value is 0. If I said your function of x is equal to -1, you're looking here, and you're going backwards. And this time there's 2 values. When x is 1, you get a function value of -1. And when x is -1, you get a function value of -1. So both of those would be the solutions. Then you could be asked it as a graph. If I asked you to find the value of your function at 2, you'd be looking at when the x value is 2, what's your y value? And you'd find that it's 1. If you were asked, or if you were told the value of your function of x is -1, you'd look at where's your y value -1, and you'd say, oh, at 3. So the value of your function at 3 is -1. All right, pause the video. Try these ones. From what I just showed you, could you figure out how to solve these 3 questions from this graph? So if you've unpaused, hopefully you gave it a shot. This one's saying, find the value of your function when x is 2. In other words, when x is 2, what is your y value? And you should find that it's 8. This one's saying, find the value of your function when x is -4. And you would find that the y value is also -4. And then lastly, this is saying at what x value would your y value be -8? So if we look at a y value of -8, I can see the x value is -6. So the value of your function at -6 is -8. All right, you're done chapter 2. Congratulations.